Did you catfish me, Bronte? Was it all a lie, Bronte? He thought he drowned her and he just left her body there, you know? Like, that's not what you do to someone you supposedly love. Maybe the problem isn't me, it's you. Let's go. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time it is for you. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jord, and for those of you who do, what's up? How's it going? Thanks for coming back. I appreciate you. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm not that guy. I hope everyone's doing well, though. Hope everyone is having... The weather's not very nice in London. Like, it was kind of sunny, like, on the drive down. And then, like, I'm in, like, short and shades weather. And it's, like, yeah, like, the weather isn't weathering, to be honest. But we keep it moving. Anyway, so I'm here today to talk about all things You Season 5. Do you know what, right? I have been anticipating this for such a long time. It takes a lot for me to be hooked to a show. And I wasn't really on the You bandwagon from the jump. I don't know why. It just wasn't really my thing. And then I became absolutely obsessed and now I'm hooked. But I wasn't super impressed with the season before. So it was very much this is very hit and miss. Obviously, because I'm dedicated to the cause and I need to know what happens, I had to obviously come through and watch it. But yeah, so this podcast, this conversation is going to be purely focusing on You Season 5, what I liked, what I didn't, my thoughts, and all of that. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so where do I start? I mean, I loved the second half of season 4 when Joe realizes that he is the person who is killing all these people, and he doesn't even realize it. I thought that was really clever because the first half was oh, this is actually a bit slow. What's going on? It was all just moving a bit too madly, and then that happened. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. And I think one thing that should be acknowledged, even though Joe is obviously a misogynist, a narcissist, and a crazy person, he does acknowledge that he can't stop. And he does realise that he can't help himself. Hence why he obviously jumped off a bridge in season 4, you know. So it's very much yes, his character is horrific and deserves all the punishments he can get. However, he has tried to somewhat put precautions in place. But for me, it was very much because I think the ending of season 4, yeah, could have been it. That could have been you wrapped up, you know. 4 seasons, obviously, for a show is very impressive, especially in this current climate and day and age. But obviously, people love You in it, and people are gonna. I think it's one of those things where people are so dedicated to what it was initially. We're all going to stick by in the hope that it kind of regains that similar level and status and whatnot. But I was optimistic and I was hopeful, but in my head I was thinking, what exactly can happen next? You know, they made a pact clean slate, you know, and to not to dig up any old skeletons or revisit any old habits or behaviors. So in my head I'm just thinking, what exactly are they going to do to make this a good story? And obviously so season 5 starts 3 years later, I believe. So if you look at what's new, so Kate and Joe are married. Henry back, Joe's child. Kate is taking on the role of Henry's mother, the only mother that he has ever known in memory. What else is happening? So obviously Kate has two sisters, the twins, Regan and Maddie. And then obviously the brother as well, Teddy, Griffin Matthews. I love that man. Yeah, so it was an interesting take because we get to see more. We get to see more of Kate's family. I mean, we got obviously Kate's dad was in the previous season, but he was just an asshole. Like it was quite nice to see people that Kate. Okay, she doesn't really get on with Regan, but it's nice to see some family members that Kate does value and that she is, I guess, close to, if you will. So basically, Kate is the CEO and the head of Lockwood Corp, a family company which her father left to her, I believe. I think because basically Kate was just the one that it seems from what I've watched and what I've listened to, Kate was just basically the one who picked up all her dad's. So I think her reward in a sick kind of way was to have the company, basically. But yeah, I think it's very much just about trying to live a normal life. That was the intention. And then I think what causes the uproar is the fact that Kate basically decides on behalf of the entire board that a significant amount of the profit made by the corporation will be placed to charitable causes. Because I think because of the issue which happened before with Kate and her pipeline project in the company resulted in many children getting cancer. So I think she feels like she has blood on her hands. Obviously it wasn't intentional, but anyone with a conscience will have guilt, right? And I think holding on to that guilt and regret has been something which has stayed with her, hence why she is quite a charitable and a caring and a nurturing person. Fast forward, turns out that the person who wants to blackmail and threaten her basically is her own uncle, which is just, this family is so messy, and to have that information for X amount of time, nah, man. So understandably, Kate is very frustrated and very undecided on what she's going to do. Joe's obviously been able to withhold his urges to be fair to him, a respectable amount of time. But big surprise, his initial suggestion is to kill Uncle Billy. Obviously, Kate's very much no, we're not doing that. And then things continue to unravel throughout the episode, and Kate basically just gives him the all ahead. And do you know what? I don't want to say that Kate is responsible for Joe's behaviour because that's not fair. But it's interesting to think, how much longer would Joe have lasted if Kate hadn't said anything? Because obviously, he had his urges, but quite clearly he found a way to control that. It's almost, and so obviously he did kill the Uncle Billy, and it's almost like this unleashed this demon in him. And obviously it's really important to remember this time round, Joe has become very famous. Him and Kate are very famous people. And I think it needs to be considered that he isn't able, or you'd like to think he isn't able, to get around behaving the way he did before, because he now has this status and he's very highly recognizable, especially in New York. But yeah, obviously, minor for him, he kills Uncle Billy, makes it look like a suicide. I think he then sends an email to the people who are going to release the report or whatnot, and to be oh no, it's fine, wrap it up type of thing. And yeah, then a monster is just basically unraveling, and it seems to be a very common theme that whenever someone gets in the way of them or Joe or someone who Joe supposedly loves, the answer and the response is to kill. And it's just and I just feel so frustrated because I just think you were doing so good, Joe. You were doing so good. So why the switch up? You know, why the switcher? But then at the same time, I think to myself, if Kate had have known that this would have unleashed this demon or would have made him move the way he did, would she have? I mean, obviously she wouldn't have. But how was she to know? To be fair, and it's not to say that Kate's responsible, because I do think that Joe would jump at the chance to do anything like that if he's able to. But it's just very much like, if you hadn't have given him the green flag, it wouldn't have happened, you know? But I love Kate. And I do think, if I'm being completely honest, and not that you really get to revisit many characters, I do think that Kate probably has the best character progression. You know, she's very like, she was very, she was cold in season 4, but to be fair to her, she was reserved. She was reserved because of how she's been. I think the way that her dad treated her has affected her relationship with men. So it took a lot for Joe to get her to open up, and look what happened. Right. But yeah, and then it just seems to unravel really quickly after that. And then like the next noticeable thing that I remember is when Henry's being violent. Yes, I believe Henry may have hit or punched Regan's child. I can't remember what her name is, right? And the reason is because Regan was talking about how Henry's mum, Love, I love Love, I miss Love, Love should still be here, big up Love, this is a Love fan account, and and then I believe Regan's child says something to Henry, and then Henry punches her, which obviously, like, I'm not like condoning or whatever, but I think at this point it's very much like, has this child picked up some traits from his daddy, you know? Which is when Kate suggests he should do therapy or something, and Joe gets offended by that. But I think in her head, she's probably thinking, I don't want my son to end up as f***ed as you. So respectfully given the opportunity that he's still at an age where damage can be resolved, like, let's give the child a walking chance, you know. And I like the boy that plays Henry. I think Henry is, and it's kind of scary and interesting in a way, because Henry is so similar to Joe in the way that he like loves literature, isn't the best when it comes to talking about his emotions, but obviously Henry does have that innocence. Henry is a very sweet child. And then we get introduced to Bonte. Bonte's an interesting character. Like, Bonte's like, I'm not like obsessed with her. She's probably my least favorite out of the mistresses, out of the female companions. I was very shocked to figure out that she was Beck's friend. That was very clever. I like how it kind of links together. But Bonte was interesting because I think, like all the other women, she inevitably fell for Joe's charm. Joe's a very charming person. He knows what to say. He knows what to do. You know, like he's clever. He's clever. He's very good at playing mind games. He knows how to get under people's skin, and he knows how to, and even when he's quite evidently the person in the wrong, he knows what to do, you know? Like Bonte, like, she literally was planning a scheme against him, but then fell in love with him, so she scrapped it. You know, like, it's quite, I don't know if scary is the right word, but it's quite impressive how someone is able to switch up that much. It's quite impressive how someone is able to shift someone's behavior so much. But Bonte was interesting. I genuinely, maybe I feel like I might be quite, my issue is I'm quite naive. I genuinely did think that she just needed somewhere to kip, until like it was all revealed, obviously. But I guess obviously with you, it's always a lot more deeper than it's made out to be, or from surface level initially anyway. And yeah, Bonte was, she's my least favorite. I'm not going to lie. She's my least favorite. And I think she was quite, I think Bonte is and was quite self-destructive. And like, sometimes I think the levels of danger you've put yourself into to take over this man is a bit extreme, you know? Sis was literally having sex with this man to tear him down. And obviously, I really respect the dedication and the hustle to the cause and the intention. I really appreciate that, and I think hats off to you. But I feel like when it gets to a space or a level where you're putting yourself in somewhat severe danger, I feel like you need to wrap it up. You know, that's just my opinion. Hate Regan, man. Oh, hate Regan. I just think she needs to suffer. And I'm not really like, and I wasn't even mad. I wasn't even mad when Maddie killed her. I just thought, you know what, fair. I think, honestly, though, I think Anna Camp is fantastic. I think she is phenomenal. I think her acting is incomparable. I've seen Anna Camp and stuff before, and nothing matches this performance. The scene that really did it for me, where I thought Anna Camp is an absolute superstar, is the scene where she's pretending to be Regan. Kate's the other side of the door, and Maddie has gone upstairs to get Regan, and she keeps on switching roles back and forth, screaming as Regan, being innocent as Maddie. And I just thought, you know what, she's incredible to be able to do twice the amount of work. Deserves all the credit. I really hope this opens the door for Anna Camp, because I think she's phenomenal. I think she deserves it all. Honestly, she's so good, and it's so refreshing to see, because obviously we're in a very like what's the word? We're in a space where it's very much like if you don't hit that level of success at a young age, it's never going to happen. But Anna Camp, she's 40. She's what, 42? She's 42, and I think this is going to be the start of a really like exciting era of her career. You know, I'm so here for it. So here for it. But I do feel like at some points, though, Jo has become somewhat softer. Like, because there are certain points, yeah. And obviously there's the bit where, this was actually a shock as well, where like obviously Jo wants to kidnap Maddie to get Maddie to basically sign over to Kate and just let bygones be bygones. But stupidly, because Maddie's having an affair with Harrison, she picks the wrong twin. Obviously locks her in the cage, typical. And it's just very much like, I do think he is. I don't think it's that he's becoming soft. I don't know whether he's becoming softer or weaker, but there are like glimmers of hope where I think, oh my God, this man has been reformed. Because I do think season 1 and season 2, Jo would have killed someone a lot quicker than he did with Maddie. Because like, yeah, he just would. Like there would be no reason. Like, and I think he's become also more aware of the consequences. Like, I think he's become more like aware of how like, oh, like shit could actually go wrong. And it's so interesting because obviously when like Bonte and her like gang have like had this collection of all these theories of what Jo has done for X amount of years, they followed it really, really clearly. And in my head, I mean, Joe's not stupid, obviously. He covers his tracks well enough that he will not be caught because nothing is ever concrete. The evidence is never secure enough. But like, you have to like obviously think eventually something's going to flag up. If people coincidentally around me continue to keep on dropping like flies and have links to my exes, have links to my current partners, eventually someone's going to get caught. But yeah, no, I think, yeah, I do think the old Joe would have killed Maddie once, because Maddie obviously clocked on to what he was doing. Maddie was, oh my God, like you thought I was Regan and you were gonna make me do this and then you were gonna kill me, but the old Joe would have been like, do you know what, F you. And I think even at this point, I have a bit of hope. I think at this point, I'm a bit like, oh my God, is he going to change? Is he going to switch up? Is that what's happening? Oh, what the hell? From the jump with Bonte and Jo, we can see this initial chemistry, or like alleged chemistry, initial bonds, you know, the love, obviously like Jo loves books and literature. And I think that common interest is extremely attractive to him. Forgive me, Let me know if I got this wrong. I don't know if Kate is into. I can't think if Kate's into literature and books. What was Kate doing when she was in London? An art dealer. Okay, cool. An art dealer. Yeah, but obviously that's very attractive to Joe. Someone who's into those type of things. It's very similar to Beck. It's very similar to Beck. But I also think at the same time, I do believe that Joe will never be fulfilled, because you have to think, X amount of years, there's always a mistress. There's always a new girl. There's always a crack in the relationship. And he's not very good at like addressing issues. His like solution is to just lips the next babe who reads a book, or lips the next babe that catches his attention. He's not the best when it comes to actually thinking, oh, let me actually try and like do relationship counseling. Let me actually try and talk to my significant other. If I'm being completely honest, there is nobody who is better suited for Joe than Love. Love was on his level, if not slightly worse. Love probably understood him and his urges more than anyone else. And I just think, for me, it was kind of a foreshadow in a sense. When he poisoned Love, it was very apparent and very obvious to me that he was never going to be fulfilled, because Love ticked, minus her crazy parts, Love did tick every box. She was beautifully suited to him. They were super similar, and she understood his urges and she didn't try and hold him back from that. And I just think to myself, like, look, at that point I was like, Joe, you're never gonna like find the one. Love was the one, and you ballsed it up, man. You messed it up. But I think also at this point, Kate's becoming scared of Joe. Let's be honest. She's becoming scared of Joe, and you can see it. And where he'll say that he like thrives off killing, and she's obviously like, well, we discussed it. But I think she probably realizes at this point that she has unleashed a monster. She's reinforced bad habits, and I think certainly she knows what he's going to do, whether he listens to her or not. Unfortunately. And it's just very much like, you can sense the regret. She's probably thinking, oh, for God's sake, why did I say anything? Why did I do anything? Why did I give him the green flag? Could her Uncle Billy have been bluffing? Do you know what, right? I actually think one of the biggest shockers in season 5 was how strong Regan is. So like, and I think that's the beauty with You. There's a lot of parts which are unpredictable, which I love. Like the bit where like Joe obviously breaks into when Joe breaks into Regan's house, and then he tries to tackle her, but she beats him to it. And then he tries to like hit her, and she beats him to it. And I think, oh my God, has Joe met his match? And at this point, Maddie doesn't even realise that it's Joe like moving the way he is. And then when she figures it out, she's like, oh my God, I always knew you were a weirdo. What the hell? Big up to Anna. And I thought that bit was really like, I don't know if I would say clever is the right word, but that was really like, I was shocked. It's like, it's a really powerful thing to feel surprised or shocked when watching or consuming something. And then I think after this point, everything just seems to fuck up. Like everything just seems to get gradually worse. The affair with Bronte is in full swing at this point. Alleged affair, whatever you want to call it. Joe basically manipulates Maddie into killing Regan, saying how she's never cared for her, she doesn't rate her, she doesn't love her, she humiliates her. And it's terrifying because Joe is such a narcissist, because obviously Joe's very capable of killing someone, but the reason as to why he got Maddie to do it was so Joe has something on Maddie if things go tits up, basically. If Maddie's to go forward and report Joe for the things he's done, well, because Joe has no morals or no care for other people's life or whatever, he knows that he can throw it back in her face. He's got cameras, for God's sake, like in the cage. I do find this scene with Maddie and with Maddie and Regan quite sad though, because even when Regan is in like quite a secluded, restricted, and dangerous situation, she still feels the need to mock her sister. And I don't want to applaud Maddie or praise her for what she did, because I'm not for it to an extent. But like, I think that was a real like demonstration of how Regan is actually really evil. You're at a very vulnerable point where you're going to be more than likely going to be harmed, and you still can't help but find the need to mock your sister. You still can't help but feel the need to ridicule her. You know, these are like, even if Maddie hadn't have killed her, this still could have been a last moment that should have been cherished. You know, not a moment where you to continue to be the horrible character you always were. I just thought, and obviously I don't justify for killing or murder, even if it's fictional. But I just think to myself, I'm like, could you not switch up for like 5 minutes just to be nice to your sister, your twin as well? Yeah, it's just, I don't know. And then, yeah, I mean, as we move on, I don't know if it's fair to say Joe has commitment issues, or if he just gets bored. Or it's almost like, do you know what it is actually? It's almost like at the first sign of trouble, Joe can't help but run to another woman. I think Joe really does seek validation. Like, we see it how, like, he was put in, his mother abandoned him. And it's almost like these encounters, these mistresses, these multiple women, it's almost like to try and fill like a gap, feel like a need and a desire. Hence why he feels the need to control them, because he's never had that power before. He's never been able to be in control of how his life runs. And I think that's why, not to justify his awful behavior, but I think that's why he gets so attached so quickly. He treats these women like objects, like play toys. And I don't think he even wants to do it in the way he does. I think he just doesn't know how else to. And at this point, as we move on, the affair is revealed because stupidly Joe could not... Joe, do you know what? It's so funny, right? Why is it that Joe is so subtle and so well thought out and so planned so well when it comes to killing people, but he can't do the same for when he's cheating? Honestly, like, this is a regular thing. Like, Love found out about Marianne. Kate found out about Bronte. Like, sometimes you really struggle to have sympathy. I'm like, Joe, could you not have at least tried to hide it? You know, like, my respect is decreasing significantly for a mass murderer, a serial killer who has killed God knows how many people. You couldn't make it a bit harder for these women to find out you're cheating on them? But yeah, okay, so the affair is revealed. Kate is obviously planning her getaway. Also noted, reminder, a getaway which can include Henry as well. I think she's scared for her safety at this point, because I mean, she already knew that he was a demon. Like, she already knew he was a bad guy, and I think she probably does know in the back of her head that he's probably hurt someone else, or he's planning to sooner than later. And then that's the part where I believe Joe's reading Henry a story or something like that. Yeah, in his bed, then finds a knife under the bed. And then at this point, obviously, they have a bit of a dispute. But I think Kate is trying to remain calm, because she's probably very much like, I know how my husband moves. I know how he behaves. And she's very neutral, and she's very calm, and she says all the right things. And then Joe obviously storms off because he can't deal with his emotions and doesn't know how to have a conversation like a normal person. In my head, right, I think to myself, I'm like, I get you can't admit to people you've killed people, but can you go to some kind of therapy? Like, because I feel you can't. Sometimes you actually can't help but feel sorry for Joe. You know, like, underneath that misogyny and just that horrific behavior, I think because when he's loving, he's so loving. You think, oh, why can't you just pattern up? Why can't you just keep it together? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not setting a very good example, homeboy. Bronte then runs away, and Joe, doing what he does best, obviously, like, tracks her down, but she knows that he'll track him. She knows that he will track her down because obviously he's sick and twisted, and he's a very clever man. Like not to obviously glamorize and applaud his behavior, but he's very clever and he gets what he wants most of the time. He's very committed to the cause. But yeah, I think how does he find her? I think I believe she's like gone to some restaurant or bar or somewhat, and she calls him off a public phone. Then Joe obviously calls back, and then one of the waiters has answered, asks where they are currently, gets the address, finds the waiter the following day, and the waiter then explains where he's gone. People really don't care for confidentiality, do they? Privacy really means nothing, honestly. And then finds Bronte at the house, and then has a dispute with, because I believe Clayton and Bronte were actually having a disagreement of some sort. She wants to back out. He's determined to take Joe down because his dad, who was Beck's therapist, John Stamos, whose name I can't remember, was obviously convicted for the murder. So he's obviously understandably very frustrated and very annoyed. So he's got it in for him. But then from Joe's perspective, from his outsider viewpoint currently, it just looks like Clayton, the ex-boyfriend, is just having a go. So obviously, surprise, surprise, Manic Joe goes a bit crazy once again, hits him over the head, he's dead. And then the Powerpuff Sisters, or whatever you want to call them, or the Powerpuff Sisters probably wasn't the best phrase, to be fair, because they actually don't look like that at all. And then Bronte's other cadets come running through on TikTok live, showing that Joe's obviously killed someone. And then I think, at these points where I think, Joe, take accountability. And then it's like, did you catfish me, Bronte? Was it all a lie, Bronte? And it's so funny because when he has that inner dialogue, talk within his head, I think, Joe, where's the accountability, bro? Come on, surely at this point you have to be like, I fucked up, I messed up. But no, it's always someone else. It's always someone else with Joe. At this point, at the end of episode 6, beginning of episode 7, I think, right, he's been caught. He has been caught. It's over. The next 3 episodes will be focused on him being convicted. Surely that is it. And I really liked this episode 6 because it's very focused on the background from Bronte, which is quite interesting. So obviously Bronte was friends with Beck when they were at school together. Then her mother gets sick, so she has no choice but to leave New York to go back to Ohio. Her mother then dies. She then kind of joins this somewhat online virtual cult type of vibe. They've all got a link or a want or a desire to try and take Joe down, so they become a unit. She then moves to New York to live with her friend, whose name I cannot remember. And the plan goes into full swing. But obviously, as we've all seen, she can't help. She falls for him madly. And then when she has the opportunity to bring him down after all these years of work, bear in mind that he's actually killed her friend. Yeah. And then she says it was self-defense. And at this point, right, at that point, I was like, Bronte, I have no sympathy for you. If he does something to you, it's actually your own fault. You had it literally there, ready. You were the only person who witnessed it, and you're still saving this man. But that's what Joe does best. Yeah, he gets people in this position where he controls them and shifts their mind. Look at Maddie. Look at the moves that Maddie's making. Maddie would never want to kill her sister, but Joe got so inside her head on what she can and what she can't do and why she should do it that she felt there was no alternative. But yeah, I was very frustrated. At this point, I just thought, Bronte, you've got no sympathy from me, babe. And this is when I thought she's not. Marianne would never. Beck would never. Okay, Kate probably would, but I do like Kate, so we're going to let that slide. Love probably would too, but I also love Love. So obviously he's been released on bail, and I don't know if he actually gets convicted for this one at the end of the series. But he's been let on bail. I digress. And like he's obviously like trying to prove to the world, because obviously, like I said, he's famous now. So there's like an additional layer of pressure. Like it's not even like he's just an average guy who killed his mistress's friend. He's obviously killed all these other people, and like as that's come forward, a lot of other people are coming forward with theories and supposed coincidences about him being surrounded by particular people before they went missing or died or whatever, you know. And I think it's all coming together. But obviously at the same time, we have to be appreciative. We're in a time where in the social media digital space, theories are just captivated so easily now, like nothing surprises me. But I think all of this is coming together, and he's like, I remember there's a bit where like a lot of people from flashes from the past will pop up giving their perspectives, and it's like one after another, and he's saying, oh gosh, like you know, like I think at this point he might actually be a bit scared. I think this is the only point so far where he probably thinks I'm screwed. Like I'm done out. And then obviously Maddie's a PR specialist or works with PR. So he's working with Maddie to clear his name. He even shows people the cage, which I think is a bit strange. And then he explains his, he explains why people may think the way they do. And he explains his trauma. Then he starts crying. To be honest, I don't care for this part. Like, even though I do like have a soft spot for Joe in certain points, at this part, I'm just like, Joe, we don't care, mate. Keep it moving, respectfully. And then I think there's like an awkward bit of, I don't know if it's suspense, but an awkward part where like it's a bit uncertain and unsure what's going to happen next for Joe and Louise or Bronte, whichever one. And then he initially says that he doesn't love her and he never did. To which he then goes on to say that he is in love with her, knowing full well that she'll be watching it. And then she moves a bit mad, but my sympathy for her is literally gone. She can do as she pleases. At this point where things are just basically crumbling, things are just slowly getting worse. I think Kate thinks at this point, okay, I need to make amends and put actions into place. Yeah, okay, so Kate is obviously trying to make amends at this point. So she goes to London. She goes to London to see Nadia. And look, at this point, right, I'm thinking Kate must be really powerful, because what the hell did she do to get her out of prison? And if you felt so guilty, Kate, why didn't you get her out sooner? And it's annoying because I actually like Kate, but I think that poor girl has lost 3 years for something that she didn't do. Come on. And then when she's talking about how like her dad had a heart attack and obviously died of the stress, and her mum, she doesn't think her mum even believes her. I just think, Kate, you have so much power. And the thing is, what's even more annoying is Kate does have a conscience. She does have a conscience. So in my head, I'm just thinking, could you not have just subtly got her out and bide her silence? You know? I do have a love-hate relationship with Kate, to be fair, but she redeems herself, so it's okay. It's okay. And obviously at this point, like, the plan is put in place, like, to take Joe down. And it's uncertain at this point if Marianne will be there. I mean, I think we're all kind of like hoping for it. It's like a closure, isn't it? Closure for her, and like also like a bit of a kick in the face for him to make him aware that he didn't beat her and he didn't win, like the way he always likes to think he does. Crazy. And then obviously Bronte and Joe are back at full swing. And again, like it's just more signs how he's crazy. Obviously, it's not revealed at this point, but obviously someone's been stalking Bronte and was planning to like attack her and her, but Joe obviously got too far ahead and then took her back to his and then purposely dislocated her foot. I just think, Joe, really? Really? And then I think obviously at this point she's aware of who he is, and I think he does this like reverse psychology where he tries to make it out that he tries to make it out like he's giving you the power. He did that with Maddie. He did it with Bronte, where like he leaves Bronte in the basement with the bloke who tried to attack her in the cage. He's like, "You can do as you please." And then because I believe Harrison figures out that Maddie isn't Regan. Yeah, that Maddie's Regan. So obviously Joe has to go sort that one out. He has a camera of the cage so he can see what Bronte's doing, and then Bronte obviously lets the bloke go, and then she returns, and then again Joe, being his like inner monologue self, was, "Oh, but you came back for me." I was just like, "Oh, bruv." Imagine being able to pull babes like in a narcissistic controlling way. He needs to take some notes. I think also Joe really like romanticizes the idea of violent acts. Like I think he kind of like justifies it as an excuse for his behavior. I think Joe will be very much like, because he likes to think he's providing to the greater good. He's doing for the greater good, yeah. So it's very much like, I did this for you. I did this for love. He doesn't like to admit a lot of the time that it's actually for his own desire. Because he even says to Kate when they're going through it, he was like, he needs a purpose, and killing is his purpose. But not when it's unhinged. Like, if he was just going for like terrorists, rapists, traffickers, I'd be like, do you know what? Go off. But the fact that it's like people that have upset his family without like severe long last, apart from the uncle, to be fair, it's just like, really? I really enjoyed this scene and the part with Bronte and Joe, where Joe is the one in the cage. I thought that dynamic was really interesting to kind of like indicate a sense of control from someone else, and kind of suggesting this somewhat sort of entrapment that Joe that Bronte has on Joe in this time period, yeah. And this scene almost feels a bit like a therapy session, you know. And it's where like basically Bronte's saying, you don't need to kill to prove you love me. You don't need to harm people to show that you're into me. I understand it thoroughly. And Joe misunderstands that and thinks she doesn't want me killing, but if I do, she's cool with it. And I'm thinking, oh, were you not listening to what she said? She's saying you don't need to kill. Like, that's not like, it's almost like, I think he likes to use the idea of killing as a justification, as a way to feel validated and to have a secure relationship. But it hasn't worked for the last 4 babes that you were with. So, like, when's it going to switch up, Joe? But at this point, like, I have no sympathy for Bronte. Like, you had plenty of opportunities to run away. And if you actually had deleted your digital footprint properly, you'd be all right. You know? At this point, I'm like, Bronte, you've signed your death warrant. Like, you don't love yourself. You're not serious. And then, like, as we get later on into the series, I'm starting to just, like, I feel like Joe, like, just isn't serious. Like, when Joe proposes, I think you're not even divorced yet. Like, why can't you just chill? And then I'm looking at Bronte sideways because you were literally just about to hand your man in, you know? The delusion just doesn't seem to end. But I'll tell you what I love about Kate is, even though Kate is probably not the best person, she knows Joe very well, and she knows how predictable she is. So she knows that Joe is trying to kill her, but obviously she has a decoy because she's one step ahead, which then gets Joe into the cage. And I think, Kate, oh, bro, you're so clever. Do you know what? Fair play. And it's very much like, it's gotten to the point now where she's had no choice but to play him at his own game, you know? And even at that point, he's still deluded. It's just like... And I love this scene that comes up. So obviously Joe is now in the cage. And obviously he does. It's when he's like, "Oh, this is low even for you, Kate." And I think, but Joe, you weren't thinking this when you tormented all those poor women. You know, he's such a hypocrite. He's very happy to like treat these women the way he wants to, but as soon as like the table switches up, he just doesn't seem to understand it. And I'm thinking, what world are you actually living in, bro? Like, and I love this scene. I love this scene with Mariam and Kate and with Nadia. You know, I don't think he ever thought those three would be together, and I think it was so powerful. And then he actually looks relieved to see he's deluded. He actually looks relieved to see Mariam, you know, and it's where like he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy you're alive," and then he says that he saved her, and I think this is probably the part where like someone sticks up to him, which I don't think happens a lot because people are scared of him because he's terrifying. And then Joe basically goes into cuckoo land and says, "I saved you. I've been spending my life saving women from like you from abusive men." And I think you're not even on the same level. And I think it's genuinely concerning that he actually believes his delusion, you know, but he doesn't seem to understand or appreciate the harm and pain he puts these women in. He just thinks he's a knight saving them, but he's just a monster, you know. But he's got a nice speaking voice, so I'm a bit of a sucker. So, and it was nice and subtle. I think Mariam is fantastic at that point, and I think, do you know what? Go off, because he needs to be told. I think a lot of the time he's not taken seriously, but I do think. I was going to say I think he appreciates Mariam more than most, but then he did try to kill her, to be fair, and leave her body for dead. And then as we move on, so they believe Joe is still in the cage. Kate has decided that she's going to be the one to kill him. I think it's two things. I think one, she actually really wants to, and two, I think because you can see she's a really pure, decent person at the end of the day, because she has so much guilt for what she's caused to Nadia and what he's done to all these women, which she has somewhat slowly contributed to as well. I think in her head she's very much thinking, I need to do this alone, because if this backfires, I don't want anyone else having to take the fall. You know, I don't want anyone else to have to be blamed for it. And I think, and she's already made the arrangements for Henry to go back to his previous dads if necessary. But I think she's very much like, he needs to be stopped. Like, he's not, because I think she is probably the only person alive who is able to match him on his level. You know, she knows how he behaves, she knows how he works. But then, like, and at this point, I think there really are no surprises with Joe. Why have you got a key for the cage, like, in you? Why? Like, what? Oh God! I mean, I hear it because he doesn't trust anyone, does he? But I just think, I don't know. Kate and Joe start having a fist bump, having a bit of a squabble. They do what they need to do. And then this part, you know, like when you're watching something, yeah, and you're just really frustrated with what's going on. So obviously at this part, Maddie sees Joe, doesn't realise Kate is downstairs. Maddie then sets the place on fire. And I just think, but then I do get why Maddie doesn't believe Joe when Joe does say, "Oh, like Maddie, like Kate's down there," because all he's ever done is lie. So why would she believe him now, in all fairness to her? But yeah, and then obviously explosions happen, the place is on fire. This part is so unrealistic. I'm not being funny. How did Bronte actually manage to get through that fire, unlock that door without like any damage done to her at all? And she actually managed to pick him up. But to be fair, credit to her due, I believe she did think Kate was dead, to be fair. I don't think she just left her to rot. I do think she thought Kate was dead, to be fair. But even, because I think at this point she's had the realization that obviously Joe, like, I think she's had like another wake-up call that he's not going to change after the confrontation and the scene with Kate and Bronte in the flat. But I don't know if that's like her way to like, I feel like she's kind of like in conflict. I think sometimes Bronte's very much like, oh, like I love him, and then she's like, I need to take him down. But it's getting to a point now where it's very much like you're literally like a cat with 10 with like 9 lives. Like, I think you need to be grateful that you've actually made it this far without him like really hurting you. But to be seen, to be continued. But yeah, I mean, I genuinely thought Kate was a goner at this point. And I think for her, she's just very much like, at least I died, like saving people. And then I love the bit, I love the bit like in the scene when the bookshop's on fire, and Kate's basically saying, "Oh, what did you do?" And then she records his confessions, which then will obviously like prove everyone else innocent. And I just think, oh, do you know what? Kate is. I think Joe can be clever, but Kate is she's another ball game. I think Kate is probably she's a savior. She's a savior. Okay, she may have contributed to a lot of the crap that Joe did, but she is a savior, and I love her. But like, I was like positive she was a goner. Like at this point, I think surely that's that. And obviously, it's well known now to everyone what Joe has done. So I'm thinking there's no going back from this. And then like when we hit the next episode and I see like Joe and Bronte like canoodling in the car, I think, really? At this point, she's asking to be harmed. Like, I get you've got a mission, but at some point you just need to give up. But this last episode was very tense, like very, very tense. And in my head, I think, is he going to get caught? Because he's been doing this for years and he's been fine. Like, is he going to get caught? Is he not going to get caught? Like, what's going to happen? They've squatted into that really pretty house in the countryside, and the plan is to stay low for however long. I think it's like a day or something until they can get their fake passports. And then it switches up relatively quickly. They are getting intimate as they always do, and then obviously Bronte whacks a gun out, and then she's determined to find out how Beck was killed. And then it all just gets very drastic really quickly. Then they end up like chasing each other like around the estate, and then they attack each other, don't they? They fight, and it's so like it goes so extreme. Like, how do they actually end up like? How does he end up topless, like die like in the river with her? And I think this is how like at points like this just shows how he can switch up so quickly, so lovely and so affectionate, and then the other side he's just crazy. Like, he literally thought he drowned her and he just left her body there, like that's not what you do to someone you supposedly love. It just doesn't make sense. And then obviously skip forward, they end up in the forest. She's like ready to shoot him or to scare him even, and I think at this point he's accepted fate. I think this is like probably a part where he's like, yeah, I'm done out. Like, nothing's going to go up from here. And he's basically saying to her, like, just kill me. I don't think he can hack or fathom or cope with being in prison, because Joe, even though Joe is horrific and he's scary and he's terrifying, he is terrified of being alone. Being alone is probably his biggest fear. Not being validated is probably his biggest fear. He wants companionship. He wants company. He wants partnership and love and family and unity. But I think he just obviously hasn't gone around the right way at all about getting it. I don't know how to feel about the ending. I don't know if it was predictable to say that he eventually would have ended up in prison. I don't know if I would have liked the idea of him like just being on the run and not knowing. Sometimes I really enjoy endings where we don't know what happens. I don't know why. I just feel like, I don't know, I kind of like enjoy the uncertainty in a way. And I feel like the ending, I'm just like, for the ending, I'm just very much like, Joe, just take accountability. I find the finishing line quite frustrating. Maybe the problem isn't me, it's you. And I just thought, bruv, you're literally like in prison for life for killing people. Why can't you take accountability? And then he like, I don't know, I really hope in a hypothetical sense, this man is in some deep, dive of therapy, you know? Like, I know men are well known for not taking accountability, but this is a crazy level. Like, this is a crazy level. But I kind of like that as an ending in a way. I kind of like him living in this continuous vision of delusion. And because I think it makes it more interesting. I think it makes it more engaging. If he was to be like, I know I'm contradicting myself because I said before he was accountable, but it depends on the time and the place. But I get like, he's like, I don't know. I just think he stays, even though he has like glimmers and snippets of hope and change and transition, he's very to his character, and I think he's just content, you know? Even like when he's in the prison, he looks calm, he looks relaxed, he doesn't look distressed or anything. I think I'm happy with the ending to an extent. I'm glad, am I glad he got caught? I think it was somewhat predictable he would get caught. I don't understand how Kate survived that fire. That makes no sense to me at all. Like, I'm certain she was dead. And who would have actually thought to have gone in there? Unless Bronte said something and we just didn't pick up on it. I don't know. I'm happy for Maddie and Harrison. I don't really, Bronte as a character, like, I care so little for her. I guess I'm somewhat happy for her. And, well, what else is there? I'm glad that Henry has a parent that is dedicated to him as much as Kate is, and that he'll be safe. I'm happy about that. And yeah, I guess it was a nice wrap up, to be fair. I don't know. I think because I think it's one of those things where like there's so much pressure for it to do well, like it'll never match the expectations. But I think the writing is incredible. I think season 5 is definitely better than season 4. But yeah, let me talk quickly about what I liked and my favorite parts. Okay. I mean, I've already said this already, but I love Kate's growth. I love that Kate is able to detach herself. You know, I'm glad that Kate was able to see past Joe and what he was hiding. You know, I really admire her strength and her dedication to taking him down. I think for so long Joe has thrived in women being scared of him and him controlling women, and Kate won't. I mean, she'll no longer take for that, you know. I think she's so brave. She's literally willing to sacrifice everything to take this man down. Granted, she shouldn't have got with him in the first place, but yeah, I'm really, I love Kate's growth as a character. I think out of all of the characters in You over the 5 seasons, when it comes to growth and character progression, she's at the top without a doubt. I'll be honest though, the one scene that absolutely broke my heart was the phone call between Joe and Henry. When Joe and Henry are talking, and he's basically saying Joe's basically saying how he loves him and everything's going to be okay, and then Henry literally says to him how when Joe used to say to him, "There's no monsters in the room with them," he's lying because Joe is the monster. And I thought, Jesus. And I think out of everything and everyone, Henry is the one thing that Joe holds on to. Like, Henry's the one thing that like keeps Joe up float, you know. And then when you see him afterwards, when you see him break down afterwards, there's like, we haven't seen him be that vulnerable before, you know. I think despite all the awful things he's done, you cannot deny or doubt the love that he has for his son. And the scene was just heartbreaking. I can't help but feel sorry for this man. He's killed so many people and he's hurt so many people, but I cannot help but feel sorry for him. Hey, hate me. I also really loved him being locked in the cage. I think it was nice to see that perspective and to see him look somewhat scared and trapped in a way, you know? I enjoyed seeing those women call him out for the stuff he's done, because he's, even though what he's done is awful, he does live in a world of Delulu. You know, he genuinely thinks he's providing for the greater good when he helps these women, but he's just, I mean, he just isn't. He just isn't. I could be wrong here. I can't remember if Joe's mum's alive or not. I feel like she may not be, but I may have that wrong. I would love to see a bit more flashback context with Joe's mum. And I'd love to see, like, if she's alive, I'd love to see something in the present, you know? It would be interesting to see if there's anything that she did that has an influence in why he is the way he is. It may not be the case, but I'm really intrigued by it. Really intrigued by it. So yeah, I think that would be interesting. I'll say it again. I really wish Love was alive. I really wish Love was alive. If anybody is going to survive being poisoned and then having a house set on fire, it's Love Quinn. You know, I would have loved to have seen Love take the final shot. I would have loved to have seen Love end Joe. You know, I don't think Love got the justice she deserved, to be honest. I thought Love was fantastic. And like I said, like, she was Joe's perfect match. She was. We can't deny it. The chemistry was unmatched. But yeah, no, I think Love deserved more. I'd also like to see what happened to Jenna Ortega's character, because that's one that just kind of got forgotten. Because there was a lot of flashbacks, wasn't there, with people saying about how they've been affected, but she wasn't there. Obviously, I get Jenna Ortega is a very famous person and she's very busy, but I would have enjoyed seeing her take. Would have liked to have seen the trial. Like, I know obviously that he's going down, but I would like to see how Joe composes or composed himself. I think that would be quite an interesting perspective. And if I'm being honest, in a sick and twisted kind of way, I kind of wish that Kate didn't make it. I find with these shows, yeah, sometimes you need a character you love to not survive. Do you know what I mean? I think it would have been really powerful if Kate hadn't have made it. Love Kate, all for her, even though she's a bit mad. But like, I feel like a lot of these shows play it a bit too safe. You know, like, realistically, no one is surviving that fire. Like, it just wouldn't happen. And it didn't make sense how the scars were like here, but not on her face. So yeah, I would have liked to, as much as I love Kate, I think it would have been really powerful to have seen her not survive. And then Henry would be well looked after, whether it's by Teddy or whether it's by his previous dads. But yeah, that's my take. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. It's going to take ages to edit. Oh, God. My name is Jord Howard. This is the Winning Side Podcast. Season 5 edition. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you all sooner than later. So yeah, big love.